Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to properly do subfloors for your van or Skoolie conversion without framing. Time and time again I hear people talk about how framing is the way to go for stability and this and that, but I will tell you that they are incorrect and there is no logic to what they're saying. I'm going to show you how to do floating floors with no framing. It's just simple physics, guys. You don't need to screw down into the floor of your van and cause a thermal bridge. I highly advise you guys to research something called thermal bridging and a thermal break, and creating the most thermal break possible is going to be ideal for your conversion. The number one reason why people's vans and school buses get ruined in the first 2 years is because of mold, mildew, wood rot. And the reason why that happens is because they don't realize that there is a thermal bridge from the outside to the inside, maybe from their framing or they're insulating improperly. I'm not sure. I have consulted with experts on this, so I'm not saying this on a whim, but 95% of people that do a build do not do the floors properly. We have the Going Boundless bus, and I will admit that the first time around I did frame the floors in because I didn't have proper information. I now have proper information. So in this video I'm going to show you how to properly do a subfloor for a van conversion, school bus conversion. You can use this in pretty much anything that you're converting, a box truck. It doesn't matter. All the same rules apply. I hope this video helps. Hey everybody, it's been a couple days. I'm going to go down to the insulation now, or go to the insulation portion now. I'm going to explain a couple things here. We have to fill the corrugated strips. This is somewhat new for us because in a school bus, our school bus conversion, there's not a corrugated floor. It's all flat, and it was very easy to do. And of course we did not do a video series on the school bus, so this is kind of new. So with all the research that we've done, there's many different ways you can go, many different paths, but the one that we ended up choosing is going with XPS board. Now there's two different kinds of XPS board that you're going to be using if you're following this as a guideline, and that would be XPS 150 and XPS 250. And let me explain. XPS 150, the reason why you have to, the difference between the 150 and 250 is compressibility, of the PSI strength. The 150 has a lower PSI than the 250. Now, I'd like to just use 250 with everything, but we can't, and I'll explain why. The corrugations are 0.40 inches. The XPS, however, the foamular board, it's foamular board XPS 250 by Owens Corning, and it only comes in the smallest size of 3/4 of an inch, which would mean it's too high for the corrugations. So the next one down is the XPS 150, and it does come in 1/2 inch. Now, well, it's a little bit bigger than the corrugations, I know, but that's as best as we can do without going to with a different solution. It's really not. Let me see if I can get. It's close, but there's going to be a little bit of airflow, but that's not bad, having some airflow under the floors, because if there's any moisture at all, that's what's going to evaporate the moisture, is the airflow. So it's really not that big of a problem. However, 3/4 of an inch, a little bit different. That's a quite a bit step up. We don't want to do that. So we're using XPS Foamular Board 150 by Owens Corning for the corrugated areas. We're going to piece that together, and there's a method to this because we want to prevent squeaking, and this is a very squeaky material. You have to piece together the corners like here, but obviously we're going to do long strips for these long tracks here. You don't want the XPS foam board touching each other. You're going to fill that in with some like adhesive, and in fact the adhesive that you're going to use is PL300, Loctite PL300. It's a foam board adhesive. I'll show you a picture of that in the next video. You need to be a 1/2 inch. Well, this is not glued in, so you have to be a 1/2 inch. I'm going to have to cut this down a little bit, but you have to be a 1/2 inch away from the walls or anywhere. This being this close is fine, but you don't want it to squeak. You don't want it to hit the edges. I'll explain in more detail in the next videos. But again, XPS 150 foam, which you can get at Home Depot. I did not find this particular type of insulation at Lowe's. I did look, but Home Depot has XPS Foamular Board 150. They do not have 250. So what you have to do for the 250 is you have to find a local insulation provider, like a contractor supply insulation place. We have one locally, thankfully, here in our area. But you can get the 150, but not the 250 at Home Depot. So that's what we did. Then, once you have the 150 and the corrugation all glued down with PL300, I have already pre-cut the XPS 250 to fit here. On top of that, then you're going to use Baltic birch 4x8 sheets, and then you're going to obviously use your, well, that's the 150, but the 250 that you have cut, the pattern, you're going to lay it on top of the Baltic birch, lay it in your yard or garage or whatever, draw it on the 4x8 pieces, and then you're going to just use a skill saw or table saw. I use the skill saw, it's a little bit easier, to cut that template. That's pretty much it. Then you're going to glue it all down with a PL300, of course, and then you're going to have to weight it down. Our method was we got a bunch of Lowe's buckets we're going to fill with water, and once we're ready, we have to glue these pieces down individually. I'm not sure how we're going to weight that down while it's setting, not yet. And then we're going to put down the big pieces, to the 250 on top of that, glued. Then we're going to use the Lowe's buckets filled with water to glue that down for 24 hours. Then we're going to come back, and then we're going to put the wood down, glued down with PL300. Then we're going to come back with the Lowe's buckets again, weight it down, wait 24 hours, and then we're going to move on. So I hope this was helpful. I'll let you know more information in the coming videos of how this goes. We're going to table saw the corrugated strips to make it a perfect fit, and you can use a razor blade, but it's hard to get a straight cut, and I've got a very steady hand, and it's still pretty difficult. Let me show you. You can see the waviness, and that's with me knowing how to cut this. You can probably cut it a little bit better with like a long ruler, like, you know, one of those that you pick up in the paint department, but it's very difficult. So we're going to use the table saw to cut these strips. I'm going to make that into a nice cut with a table saw as well. I'm just trying to piece this together temporarily. I'll let you know in the next video how this goes. Thank you. Okay, well, it started raining, so I couldn't finish 100%, but we are like 90% finished, so I decided to go ahead and do the video now. Using the table saw, we probably only cut for about an hour and got this whole thing done. Really, the only custom pieces that you have to do are the sides here and there, and then up by the stairs, maybe over there on the left side, but really these are all just straight cuts, and I made 4 of each because it's like 2 lines that are 1 1/4 inches, 2 lines that are 3.5 inches, and each one require 2 strips, as you can see. Not a big deal. So what's going to happen next is that once I finish this, once the rain stops, I'm going to clean it up, clean up the ground, make sure there's no debris, and then we're going to PL 300 all of this to the ground, and then we're going to put our cut pieces that are done, the top layer, the XPS 250, the big sheets, which I've already cut the wheel wells out and all the big pieces. So once we're going to glue this down really fast, and then we're going to put the big pieces down, and then we're going to weigh it down with some buckets. So I'll show you in the next video. I'm not sure if I'll get to it today or not, but here you go. Okay, this is what it looks like when it's all finished. I'm told by a person that I get advice from with this kind of stuff to use a ton of PL 300. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, is use a ton of PL 300. So we're going to do the strips first, make sure they're placed properly, lay the Formula Board 250 big sheets on top of that, fill the buckets with water, cover it up. Once it's dry, after 24 hours, I'm going to pull it off, and then we'll glue the tops of these strips and then put the big sheets back on, weighted down with water. There you go. Hey guys, so I've got the strips glued down with the PL. I'm filling up buckets of water right now. If you're following my guidelines on how to do a van build, I suggest you get 20 of the PL 300 just for the strips alone. I imagine it's going to be a lot more for the top layer, the straight piece, the piece that goes on top of the strips, which I haven't glued down yet. I'm doing the strips first. I'm not sure how many that's going to take, but it's going to take you 20. I've only done the first half. I don't have enough buckets and time. It takes a while to do this, but it was 9 for the back. I imagine it'll be 9 for the front, so I suggest you get 20 just for the strips. It will be an additional 20 plus for the top layer. Now, keep in mind we have to fill corrugated areas that we didn't have to do in the strips, so I'm imagining that it's going to be probably 30 for the top layer. So be safe and get 50. And then you're going to want to get Lowe's buckets. If you do it like me, you're going to need 15 Lowe's buckets. Do the front, or so the back or the front first. And then I'm going to take it all off, and then I'm going to do the other side, put the 15 buckets. You have to wait 24 hours before, so this is a really long process, unfortunately. So it's going to be 1 day for the back, 1 day for the front. Then I have to come back and do 1 day for the back again, and 1 day for the front for the top layer. Then we have to go back and put the wood pieces, so that's another 2 days. So this is a bit of a long process in between dry times. Now, keep in mind, this is the most important part of your build, or one of the most important part of your builds is the subfloor, and you want to do it right. You don't want squeaking, you don't want sagging. So I'm willing to waste this time. Well, it's not really wasting time, but I'm willing to put in this time just for the subfloor because it's so important. Now, I recommend, based off of all the research I've done, I implore you to do your own research. Sorry, I keep having to fill up more buckets. I implore you to do your own research on this. A lot of people do mini cell. I don't recommend going with mini cell. There's literally like hardly any R value, and then there's nothing that adheres to it, so you can't use an adhesive because it's corrosive to the material. So you'd have to use like clear silicone, which is not an adhesive. Now I know a lot of you might be saying, well, you don't really need an adhesive because there's a lot of weight that's on top of it. Well, that's true, but I personally feel better, more security, knowing that it's all glued down. Now, that might be stupid. It may not be stupid. I can tell you that the pros, they'll tell you, some pros will say it doesn't matter, and others will tell you it doesn't. Well, I work with somebody that's very familiar with this industry, who I'm friends with, and it's recommended to go with the XPS and use PL300. So I'm taking it from somebody that does bus and van conversions for a living to do it this way. So if I were to use some other method and it mess up, I'd just be hitting myself in the face, you know. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put these remaining buckets, oh, I have to move this. I'm going to put these remaining buckets on, and then I'm going to wait till tomorrow morning, take it all off and do the front. So I'll see you in the next video. Alright, so while I'm waiting on the back to dry, I really want to get something done, so I decided to move the stairs. Now, on the Ford Transit, the corrugations on the stairs are much smaller. So finding insulation to go in between the corrugations is going to be near next to impossible with a high PSI strength. So what I decided to do is use Kill Mat, several layers, to build up the corrugated areas and in the back, because that's also much lower than these parts here. So, and then I'm going to cover it. I've just filled it all in, made it and leveled it out. And now I'm going to cover it with a nice top layer, and then I'm going to go straight to the XPS 250 board. I'm skipping the XPS 150. I feel like that's the best move, and I don't want the stairs to be too high. Even though I'm tall, I went ahead and put XPS 150, then 250, and tried it, and it was a little too high for me, even though I'm 6'2". So I'm going to do the, and keep in mind, there's XPS 250 and the wood, and also your flooring, the finish work. So it's going to be high, even though I'm skipping the XPS 150 board. So anyway, one more layer of Kill Mat, XPS 250, then the wood. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, so I got my top layer on, nice and flat. Now, I want to show you how much PL300 I'm using based off of what I'm being told on how much should be used. So this will give you a good idea. I didn't show you in the back because I'm trying to work quick. I don't want it to dry, so I don't have time to make videos. But with this, I'm going to be able to show you exactly how much PL300 to use. Show you in a second. There you go. You can't use too much PL300. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and put on this wood piece now. Since it's such a small piece, I'm going to go ahead and finish it up. But there you go. Push it down, wiggle it around, and then wipe up the excess that pops out of the front there. And that's pretty much it. Okay, this is what the next day looks like. Went past the 24-hour mark by like 2 hours, but I noticed something on the stairs. I started walking on the stairs, and it does squish out a little bit because it's not 100% dry. So the bottle says 24 hours, but I use so much of the material, it's probably longer than 24 hours. It does say it takes 7 days to cure. It's probably going to take a little bit longer than that, based off of what I'm seeing. I don't think we messed up the back by taking it off too early, because it is staying flat to the metal, and that's all that's really important, is that it stays in position and doesn't come apart. So I think it's okay. I would rather it have been 100% dry before taking this off, but we can't take 2 and 3 days for each section, because after this, remember, we have to go back and do the top layer, which it's sitting on the top layer, but the top layer is not glued, remember. So the 250, XPS 250. I'm going to go ahead and show you the back, what it looks like. This is the top layer that's not glued down, and this is all, I mean, it's squishy to the touch, but as long as it's not pulling up, I'm happy with it. So there you go. I'll show you the next video, which, well, maybe I won't, because it's just going to be gluing the top part down and putting those back here for a day, and then going back to the front again. and then we have to do it again for the wood. So, see you in the next one. Hey, it's another day. We're gluing down the XPS 250. This is how much PL 300 to use. It's quite a lot. I think it's about 6 bottles here. Alright guys, we are gluing in our subfloor on top of the PL 250. I'm sorry, on top of the Foamular XPS 250. We got our first piece in. We're not pressing it down yet. We're going to go ahead and put this wood piece in, and I'm going to start using these joint fasteners to join the 2 pieces of plywood, or all of the pieces of plywood. I'm going to be using these joint fasteners from Lowe's. Not sure how it's going to work. It should be okay. We'll find out here shortly. Okay, the subfloors are done, installed. This is pretty much it for this video. Just going to let it dry for a few days, and then take the buckets off. That's what it looks like from the outside. Obviously that's all going to be covered up with woodwork. It's going to look good. I hope this video was helpful. Alright, we're finishing up the subfloors now. Using some wood filler for the gouges where we use the joint fasteners. And now we're going to go around where that space is all the way around, and we're going to fill in with great stuff, and then we'll cut out the excess. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, this is what it should look like when you're finished with the great stuff. Once it dries, we'll just it should only take but an hour or 2, but we're just going to be safe. Wait till tomorrow, and then I'll razor blade it out to make it nice and even. See you in the next video.